feel like I've been seeing the topic of healing your inner child come up a lot lately, especially in recent years, and especially with the holidays coming up. I kind of wanted to challenge how we as adults, or even teens, depending on who's watching this, navigate the world and potentially help you heal your inner child. If you're new here, hi, my name is Sano, and I am a freelance illustrator, designer, and small business owner of my small business Prismacolor. So a lot of what I do in terms of art and my career as an artist directly interacts with what I loved and was super passionate about as a child growing up. So because of that, I feel like I've always kind of had a pretty good connection to who I was when I was a kid or as a teenager, and I feel like I have a lot to say in regard to the concept of healing your inner child. But of course, like anyone, I have my traumas and my struggles that I went through in life, and especially when I was a little kid in like the elementary school age. I remember I used to struggle a lot with the school curriculum, and I used to get really bullied, especially as a kid with untreated ADHD. I ended up having to be homeschooled starting from the second grade. I ended up developing a lot of social anxiety and a lot of insecurity surrounding who I was as a person overall when I was a little kid, through my preteens and into my teens as well. I feel like only recently, when I became an adult, is when I really started feeling confident in myself, and that's something that I'm very thankful for. I used to be too afraid to make new friends and talk to new people for fear that eventually they would learn that I'm a little bit too strange to hang out with. That's just how I grew up and the kind of mindset that I had going forward into life. I remember going through a phase in the start of the 2010s where I ended up shunning one of my special interests because I hated the person that I was when I was really interested in that special interest. I actually just turned 27 this year, so around the time that I was in my adolescence and in my childhood years, the concept of like being cringy wasn't really a thing on the internet back then, and so we never really had to like worry about being super cringy. The most you would have to worry about is, like, I'm sure if you were a teenager in public school and you liked anime and manga and video games, obviously you're going to be seen as the weird kid and the outcast, whereas now that's a lot more normalized. I didn't have that experience because I never really went to public school after second grade, but I know that that was something that a lot of people struggled with. But the communities that I used to find myself in back then were online communities, and back then, being cringy online really wasn't that much of a thing. And especially now, I know it's a very big thing with the rise of things like cringe culture and things of that degree. The concept of cringe culture and the fact that a lot of youth on the internet right now today, and even adults on the internet today, have to worry so much about being too cringy or being clipped in something on TikTok or something like that for being too weird or awkward or whatever. It just reminds me so much of those days where I used to shun myself for that special interest that I had just because of who I was and how cringy and awkward I was back when I used to like it. If you had gone to a toy store when you were a kid and you ended up seeing a doll that you absolutely loved and you wanted to get so badly, but your parent or maybe even a friend came up to you and started mocking you for ever even liking or wanting that doll in the first place, and they ended up dragging you away from it and just making you feel like absolute garbage for ever thinking it was even cute enough to want. Especially in our developmental years, words and actions sting so much, and they can leave permanent scars on our minds. Because you were treated like an idiot for wanting that doll, maybe anytime you go to a clothing store and see an outfit that looks even remotely similar to that doll's outfit, maybe you think you would be silly to ever wear that outfit yourself. Or on the flip side, maybe you walk past a toy store in your adulthood and you see a doll that looks eerily similar to that doll, or even see the same one in the toy store window, and you feel this deep-seated urge and desire to get it for yourself finally, now that you can as an adult. That's just like a general idea or concept of little traumas that kind of scar you when you're a kid. Things like that happening where you feel so self-conscious in yourself for ever even considering something, or for doing something, or saying something, or feeling some type of way. It's all centered around the concept of shame and sadness and just a really negative experience overall. I feel like that concept especially rings true for people, especially now that the holidays are coming up. As I'm filming this, it is the beginning of December. I forgot the date, but yeah, it's the beginning of December as I am filming this, and I'm not sure when this is going to be uploaded, but it might be like mid-December or something. But I know the holidays are coming up very, very soon, and I hear a lot of people saying like, oh, now that I'm an adult, the holidays just don't hit anymore, or like, I just feel so depressed when the holidays come up, or I never feel the same way I did about the holidays as a child as I do as an adult now. Did that make any sense? I don't know, but you get what I mean. A lot of people say that, and things just feel so much less vibrant than they were when they were kids, especially during the holidays. And if you celebrate Christmas, especially with holidays like Christmas, where that childlike magic is like supposed to make you feel a certain way. And I know a lot of adults, or even most adults, I would say, kind of fall into that category and have that feeling. But I feel like a lot of what people who think that way tend to be missing out on is actually allowing yourself to indulge in those childlike things that maybe your parents or your family and friends back then used to do for you, or have these traditions that they used to do every year that maybe now that you're an adult, they don't carry through as much as they used to, or maybe you've moved away from home and you don't have the opportunity to have that experience with your family like you used to. And I know that this concept doesn't always apply to everybody, but I want you to kind of look at this in more of a broad sense, rather than being as literal, unless it is literal for you. But like, I want you to apply this concept to just anything in life and any thought that you have where you feel like you're missing that vibrancy and that childlike wonder in just about anything that you do. But for this example, I am going to be using the holidays and Christmas just to kind of get my point across. So just as an example, say you typically do celebrate Christmas and your family used to decorate all the time and used to have all of these traditions, but now you live on your own, you live in like a house or an apartment that you got for yourself, and you don't have those same experiences and childlike happiness and excitement for the holidays like you used to. Something that I found really helps in a situation like that is taking on those traditions or creating new ones and taking on those responsibilities that maybe your family or parents used to do for you back when you were a kid. Things like decorating your apartment and turning on Christmas music and making an effort to maybe even get into event planning and planning out new traditions for yourself and for your friends, and even bringing in your family as well if they can to join you so that you can feel those experiences. I think a lot of what goes into these kinds of things is just taking those extra steps to get yourself into the mood and get yourself into feeling that way and wanting to experience those things. Things like snuggling up to watch Christmas movies, or getting a gift for yourself even. Learning how to make holiday recipes and hosting those Christmas parties and holiday parties for you and your friends. Just things like that where you can create your own traditions. Something that actually, it's a little bit silly, but something that actually gets me very excited for the holidays is watching I don't know if I'm allowed to say that brand name, watching the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Every single year. I've never missed a year for as long as I can remember, and it just kind of gets me in the mood for the holidays and like the spirit of the holidays, and it just makes me so happy. And for those of you who may not live in the States and don't really know what that is, it's like this big parade that a certain company throws every single year, and it's just so much fun, and it starts on the morning of Thanksgiving every single year, and I don't know, there's just something about it that makes me so happy, and maybe it's that internal theater lover in me that really enjoys it, because they always have a lot of Broadway performances that they show during that parade, but I don't know, I just love it so much, and it just makes me really, really happy and gets me into the mood for the holidays. And because of that tradition, I found that I don't really relate as much to people who say that they don't feel excited for the holidays every year, and I'm sure people have a lot of reasons to not feel excited for the holidays. That's totally fine, but I guess for me personally, I've always been able to tap into that childlike wonder and excitement surrounding Christmas and the holidays because I created that tradition for myself that I can experience no matter how old I get, which is really nice, and it's something that's very, very comforting for me. I also do a lot of little things like making sure that I have very specific like holiday pajamas that I always get into every year, and I get out my nice fluffy socks once it starts getting cold enough. Even every day of the year, I make sure that my room feels really, really nice and cozy, and I do those little things even outside of just the holidays to make sure that I feel really excited to wake up in the morning or to be excited for the night to come so that I can turn on all of my little lights and all of my fairy lights and just feel really cozy. These things that I'm talking about really do extend past just the holidays, and I know that a lot of people, when they get into their adult years, they always comment on how much bleaker and how much more boring things feel the older that they get, but personally, I feel like life doesn't have to be that way, and this isn't even necessarily in regard to like money and things like that. I think it's just allowing yourself to indulge in media, whatever it is that gets you excited no matter how old you are. I think it's those little things that can really help you get into the spirit of being alive and tap into your inner child as a whole. So I am extremely excited and honored because I was approached a few weeks ago by the artist marker brand Copic, which sounds absolutely insane for me to be saying right now, but I was approached by them and they asked me if I would like to receive a PR package testing out their new Copic Acrea markers. And I absolutely, of course, said yes. I remember growing up idolizing all of the artists and mangakas that used to use Copics in all of their illustrations when I was a kid. And as an adult, I was finally able to get Copic markers myself and have been using it religiously in all of my sketchbooks. I was so ecstatic opening up this PR package. They hooked me up with 24 of the Copic Acrea markers. They also gave me a mason jar that I can test the markers out on. Apparently these markers are kind of like paint markers, and you'll see in a second I'm going to test them out for you guys in this video, but they also gave me these really, really nice high quality coasters that I can also test the markers out on, and they also gave me some really nice pamphlets. One of them had a really sweet note on it, which was so sweet of them to give me, and on the back of that note they also included a bunch of swatches that I can use to test out all of the marker colors on, which was so useful. I love when companies do that. So these markers are very, very different from the usual Copic markers that you usually see people using. They're paint markers that can be used on a wide variety of surfaces like paper, wood, glass. You can even use them on apparel, which I really want to try. I'll test these markers out for you guys in a little bit in my sketchbook, but I just wanted to say a huge, huge thank you to Copic for giving me this opportunity. And they also hooked you guys up with a 10% off discount code. So you can see my discount code right here, and I will leave a link in the description box and a way for you to copy that discount code so that you can get your own Copic Acrea markers with 10% off using my code. And that code will only be good for a certain amount of time, so definitely get your hands on them while you can. And thank you so, so much again to Copic for this amazing opportunity. I remember back in early 2022, I was actually faced with that special interest that I was shunning myself for liking back in the day. The special interest that I had was a Japanese rock band, and it's not that I hated the band or anything like that. Their music is still fantastic, but I just remember hating who I was when I liked them so, so much that even just listening to their music felt very triggering to me and kind of made me recoil back into that like, oh, like that bunched up up cringe feeling of like, God, I just don't, it just made me think of who I was when I liked them. And that was really, really unfortunate to think about. In late 2021, my childhood dog Coco ended up passing away very sadly after almost 16 years of being one of the best dogs in the entire world that one could ever ask for. And I remember that loss made me actually, it didn't make me, it forced me to kind of be face to face with myself and with my life, and to kind of reconsider everything that I knew to be true and thought about. Needless to say, I was absolutely devastated, of course, but I feel like that loss, in a way, if there was one good thing about it, it helped me realize just how important and fleeting life can be. I remember I was flipping through photos of him back in early 2022, and I don't remember what it was, but I got reminded of the band that I really, really liked, because back when I really was obsessed with that band, I also had Coco. I had just gotten him about like 3 to 4 years prior to getting obsessed with that band. And I got reminded of them, and it kind of led me down a rabbit hole of re-exploring them and reintroducing myself to them. And I just got really curious about where they were in 2022 and what kind of music they were making at that point. And to my surprise and excitement, they were definitely still a band and definitely still making music together, which was really, really cool. And I went down their entire discography again, and I ended up listening to all of their new tracks as well, which absolutely phenomenal. Their name is Alice 9, and I love them very much, I can say that now. But I was just so happy, and I felt like I was healing pieces of my inner child just by looking into that band again and kind of reconciling with my preteen self, who I initially hated and couldn't even stand the thought of. But now, after reconciling with this situation, I was able to face myself and face who I was back then, and I was able to recognize that preteen girl who, may be cringy and awkward and doesn't know how to socialize to save her life, she was definitely deserving of the same love and care as the present me is worthy of too. Of course, in 2022, I ended up becoming so much more obsessed with them all over again, and I felt like I was just able to really heal that inner child and finally reach a point of understanding with myself that I wasn't able to reach before. I won't go into it too much because this isn't really what this video is about, but I also feel like reconciling with my inner child also really helped me process my grief surrounding the loss of my dog, and I feel like that was such an important and pivotal thing for me as I was growing up in 2021, especially because it was still a really weird and rocky period. We were still in the midst of the pandemic, and so things were just really weird for me mentally overall during that time, but I feel like it just really, really helped me kind of get into a much mentally healthier place, and I am very, very thankful for that. As I mentioned earlier, creating art and still having special interests are very, very key factors in how I'm able to tap into my inner child, as an example. I feel like having those interests and having those hobbies that I also enjoyed when I was a little kid have really, really helped shape my life and make it feel a lot more fulfilling overall. I've seen so many people saying things like, oh, you're too old to be playing video games, or you're too old to be wearing that. Once you turn 30, you can't do da-da-da-da-da, X, Y, and Z. And I've always found that concept to be so narrow-minded. I feel like putting an age limit on those things that bring us so much joy in our lives really is just an absurdly boring way to live your life, and I know that there's a big chunk of people who actually do live by that concept. In a world where so many awful things are happening around us constantly, if I want to play Final Fantasy XIV and I want to draw my little sketches in my cute little sketchbook and collect little trinkets that make me super happy and listen to the same music I was listening to back in 2009, even though it may seem cringy to somebody else, I'm gonna do that. You can bet your bottom I'm going to be doing that no matter what. And I don't care if I am 25, 30, 40, 50, the list goes on. I am going to continue doing those things that I love to do that bring me joy and happiness in my life, because you know what? it keeps me tuned into my inner child, and it allows me to feel that childlike wonder for life. And this kind of does coincide with the concept of cringe culture and being quote unquote cringy that I know is very, very popular in internet spaces to this day. I feel like we've curated this culture built around shame and feeling too ashamed to admit that you enjoy certain things at a certain age or a certain point in your life. And I just want to say, be cringe, be free. I feel like that is the number one thing that will help you tap into your inner child and will just really help you become much happier and much more confident in yourself overall. I love my special interests. I will be loving video games and fashion and art and cute little trinkets until the damn day that I die. So I hope that that resonates with you as well. And it obviously doesn't even have to be video games or fashion or whatever. It can be literally anything that you love, or even just finding what you were passionate about when you were younger to begin with and kind of tapping into that and thinking about it and thinking of what made you love it when you were younger and why you loved it, and maybe seeing if it's something that you'll like in your adult years overall, or finding similar interests that may feel a bit more mature to you that kind of coincide with what you did like when you were a kid, and just honing in on that, indulging in that, and letting yourself feel free to explore that. But I do hope that this video can serve as an eye-opener for you as well, so that you can work on healing your inner child much sooner rather than later. It's definitely a lot easier said than done, for sure. Definitely, I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it or anything. I'm not a therapist or a licensed professional by any means, but these are just the things that I feel really helped me heal my inner child and become a lot more understanding and closer to who I was when I was younger. But I think the general consensus is to just not pass judgment on yourself for the things you say and do, the things that you like and enjoy. I feel like there's a gentle approach to recognizing the things that you do and the actions that you take without leading with shame and fear and disappointment and anger in yourself, and especially not taking that out on your younger self when you were too young to even fully process a lot of the things that happened to you or that you experienced throughout your life. Doing simple things like indulging in your old special interests and allowing yourself to feel that childlike wonder for the things like holidays or special interests that you now have as an adult or want to get into but maybe feel too cringy, air quote, to get into yourself. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to leave a blue heart emoji if you did make it this far, and let me know in the comment section below what other topics you would like me to discuss on my YouTube channel. And also don't forget to give me a like, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any content from me, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you never miss an upload. And again, here is my 10% off discount code so you can get your own Copic Acrea markers. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, my friend.